writing these songs helps me change, then I have to. Not even for me, but everyone that I matter to. I've got this feeling life won't always be like this. My dad said to me, it's your calling, your purpose. Walking through this life like a man with no shadow. Always by myself, just trying to find my way. I've got no idea of how to get this thing started. Looking for a way out never got me by. I'm so scared and I don't know what to do. All this medicine does is hide the truth. How could you be happy if you've got nothing to prove? So get up and get out there, it's not what you got to lose. Walking through this life, forgetting strife in the rear view. Don't prolong the pain, I owe myself more than that. If I learned my lesson, could I go back to high school? Tell myself to have some fun, don't be so pent up. I'm so scared and I don't know what to do. All this medicine does is hide the truth. How could you be happy if you've got nothing to prove? So get up and get out there, it's not what you got to lose. Lock the door and run hot water. My sights are skewed, forgive me, Father. Sent you a text over dramatic. Got the response I wish I hadn't. I feel ashamed beneath my sleeves. Too much has changed, I have to leave. I love my family, I love my friends. And as for you, some good things end. I've made mistakes, I wish I hadn't. Things don't just change, we make them happen. I proved a point, forgave my father. Became less bitter, cause love is softer. I think I'm going off the deep end. I think I took a left when I should have took a right at the bend. I think I'm looking at the wrong trends. All these different people around me and they're calling me friend.
Welcome everybody. It is a SchuBros night. We are here with you tonight. It is a very good night for us. We got a lot going on in the world. We got a lot happening, but you know what? Out here in the SchuBros world, it's a good night. Kyle, we got some swag to show off, man. Like we got some legitimate swag now, and you don't have one close to you, do you?
No.
You don't. I mean, we spent all this time to get this, and he doesn't have it. I mean, like, useless. All right. Well, anyway, guys, tonight is a great night for us. We are here. We are joined by a very special guest. She writes for the Daily Caller. She writes for the Lone Conservative. She writes for enough publications that it would be hard to list them all consecutively. So joining us is, look, vocabulary is not my big suit. Okay. It's economics. All right.
Aren't you getting a PhD? Shouldn't you know some words?
Hey, I know some words. That's exactly right. I know some words. So joining us tonight, and speaking of bad pronunciation, here we go. Olivia Rondeau.
That is exactly right. That is correct.
There we go.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm really excited to talk about current events, everything that's going on. It should be fun. You guys seem fun. You guys seem like fun guys.
We try our best to not
fun,
kill each
she
other.
means before the show started, Kyle and I have had general fights on Skype.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I mean, you guys bicker, but it's funny. It's funny to me to watch.
All right. So, Olivia, thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. Thank you so much for spending some time. There we go. There's a swag. Look at there. Hey, and if you're on YouTube, scan that code. It'll take you to our website. Check it out.
You gotta get a lot closer for that.
Well, yeah, your videos, it's blurring pretty bad. All right. Anyway, if you want a sticker, you can go to our website and find out how. Or you can Twitter Kyle or I, and we'll figure out how to get you one for the low price of paying us $5.
The second part is right. The first part, I'm working on that.
Okay, so Miss Olivia, thank you so much for joining us. Let's get back to the topic at hand, which is you have graced us with your presence. So the Daily Caller, the Lone Conservative, more and more and more publications than I can list. Why don't you tell everybody who's watching this who you are, where you're from, why you are who you are, what you want to be, all that.
Okay, I'm Olivia Rondeau. I'm 19. I'm born and raised in Montgomery County, Maryland, which for those who do not know, basically the suburbs of DC, like right over into Maryland. I'm a political science major. I'm a collegiate wrestler. I'm a 6-time All-American wrestler, and I'm a journalist. I write for the main publications I write for are the Daily Caller, Campus Reform, Lone Conservative, Rogue Review, Quarter Medium, but there's a bunch of different blogs and stuff I write for. But I just like writing. I like writing about politics mainly. I want to get into doing more like op-eds and things like that. But my long-term goals are more shooting towards getting into politics directly. So I just got a job with Young Americans for Liberty doing a deployment to Missouri as an election coordinator. So that's kind of the direction I want to take my career more into, working on campaigns, working on elections, and possibly getting into office in the future. I don't know.
There you go. All right. So collegiate wrestling, 6-time All-American, which is, I mean, that's effing insane right there. Okay. I mean, to be an All-American wrestler, that's insane.
Since you're only 19, I'm having to assume some of that was at the high school level.
Yeah, that was high school. So, for a lot of different reasons, mainly coronavirus, and basically what I guess we'll get into talking about later, but the whole 7-month anniversary thing. So that hindered my ability to compete my freshman year of season. So it was kind of like a redshirt year. But my goals for wrestling in the collegiate realm, I do want to make the world team. Like U23, which is the under 23 category. So like the college age world team, and then become a college national champion.
Well, I mean, those are great goals, right? And so I mean, Olympian, all those things. WWE, of course, in the future, right? Like,
no,
I mean,
absolutely not.
UFC.
I mean, come on, throw some bows.
I might do UFC. The reason I even started doing wrestling was because I did MMA, and I was always doing like different martial arts as a kid. Like I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, blue belt in BJJ. So I was like, might as well just add wrestling so I could go into MMA in the future. But then I started wrestling, and I was like, I kind of don't want to get punched in the face. So I didn't really do MMA after that, and I just did wrestling.
Well, the key there is to keep them, on the ground so they can't punch you in the face. Just that's how
right.
What do you? I don't know how to take someone down, because I can take someone down, but not when they're like trying to kick me in the head.
Grab their foot and just poof on the ground. You
know what? It probably is that easy. You're probably correct.
I have no idea.
It is of course not that easy.
We have wrestled many a times to the point of the cops almost got called on us.
Hear the click.
Yeah, his jaw don't work right because of me.
Yeah. So Kyle, the first time he got beat in a wrestling match, he was really upset about it. He tapped, I got up, I left, I was walking away, and he punched me in the jaw from behind. And ever since then, my jaw clicks.
What is wrong with you? That is so violent.
I mean, to be fair, I've broken his rib. I've
with the brick
probably cracked his skull on an occasion.
Okay, this is like the difference between men and women, because I've wrestled for 5 years. I've never broken a bone in my life. Never broken a bone.
I hit him in the temple with a football and damn near gave him an aneurysm.
Oh my God.
We're brothers,
To be fair, he's hurt himself in more ways than I could ever have possibly dreamed to do.
Oh my God, that's crazy though.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, Daily Caller, we had one of your cohorts on not too long ago in Virginia Cruda. She came with us and she had a great interview with us. So what got you started in journalism, I guess? What made you, I mean, was that something like you did? Were you on the high school paper, or is it just something you started writing and people were like, hey, I want to read what she's writing?
I've always been like, ever since I was a kid, I've always been really into creative writing. So through 6th grade to 10th grade, before I transferred to a private school, I was in the magnet program for humanities and communications in public school. And so, I've always been pretty naturally good at writing, but never had been interested in writing anything like necessarily like newsworthy. Oh my God. So then when I started like blowing up on Twitter, like 2018-ish, like summer 2018. And I was like, okay, I can write tweets, so why can't I just write articles? So it just kind of went from me like self-publishing a few things to actually getting picked up by publications. So it was kind of a natural evolution.
So I've started writing for our website, which nobody goes to. So let's just go ahead and get that out there. But it kind of came from
like maybe 5 people.
It kind of came to a thing where it was like, okay, if I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write these tweets that are like 17 tweets long, that's a effing article, right? I can just write a damn article and just put it all in one coherent thing where people aren't going to block it up into chunks and take everything out of context, right? Because I wrote a thing about the Confederate flag not too long ago saying, look, I don't support the flying of the Confederate flag. I don't personally think it's appropriate to fly the Confederate flag, but I'm also a conservative who doesn't believe I have the right to stifle somebody else and what they want to do. I think it's stupid. And I understand the history of the Confederate flag that we currently see. It's not the national flag, but it is a battle flag of the Confederate troops, which was flown by people who wanted to own slaves. So you can't really make the argument that it's not rooted in slavery. But again, I'm not allowed to tell you what to do. I'm not allowed to, but I can tell you what's going to happen at my house. I'm not going to fly the Confederate flag. And people broke like part of that in the chunk where it was like, oh, you're saying people can't come into your house if they have a Confederate flag. It's like, I didn't say that whatsoever. I said, I'm not going to fly it, right? It's not going to be flown on my flagpole.
Right.
But if you're wearing a shirt with it on, I'm not going to tell you to take the shirt off, but don't get upset with me when I go get my I'm with stupid shirt and stand beside you.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
right.
And part of that is for the fact that, we were born and raised in Texas, but our family didn't really come to the United States until the late 1800s. So we actually didn't even get here until after the Civil War. Like, as far as like things go, like we kind of got here at the best time. We got here after the Civil War, but before World War One, for Germans.
Yeah.
So as a German heritage person, like We were here after the Civil War, so we can't really get blamed for any of that bullshit. And we were here before World War I and World War II, so we can't get blamed for that bullshit either. So we, kind of got there right in that perfect time.
That works out. Yeah.
Squeaked in under the whistle there. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able to write long form, I think, because it definitely lets you put a coherent message out, and people can't then try to manipulate it and just retweet part of it and say, oh yeah, see, this person's definitely a racist because they said this or that, or for conservatives, if you say, hey, I'm not going to do this, then all of a sudden be like, oh, well, you're telling us what to do. And it's like, no. So, exactly. I mean, you're still in college though.
Yeah, I'm going to be a sophomore.
I mean, so you were a freshman in college. And you're writing for major publications. I mean, Daily Caller is a big conservative publication. I mean, it's not some small, they got an app on an iOS store.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. The way I got into that was like pretty crazy. So, I had literally just got out of the hospital, which I guess we'll talk about that. But I literally just got out of the hospital. And I was just like, I need to get my shit together. I need to get a job. I need to use my like writing talent for something bigger than just Twitter. I don't know. So I found on the Daily Caller website, I do have a friend that does social for the Daily Caller. So that's how I found out about the Daily Caller in the first place. But I went on the website. I saw that they were hiring spring interns. And this was I applied in like mid to late January. So the spring semester had already started. But like 3 days later, I ended up basically just coming into the office. Like they Skype called me, they accepted me. They really liked my YouTube channel and they liked some of the other things I've written. So it was really I just kind of like took a chance on it, but they ended up really liking me. And so after my internship was cut short by coronavirus, they were just like, you can come on as a contributor. So it was pretty cool. At the beginning, I definitely was pretty, I don't know, like starstruck because I was like, oh my God, like this is Tucker Carlson's like company. Like this is so weird. But yeah, everyone there is like super cool, super accepting. So it's a good environment.
So I will say I'm a little bit jealous because I did apply, not for an internship because I'm working on a PhD, and I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to apply for an internship working on a PhD. But I did apply for a position with Daily Caller not too long ago, and no response whatsoever. They're just like, nah.
Even with your friend Virginia over there?
I was like, okay, hey, Virginia, in the DMs, like, hey, I made an application. Can we talked? You know who I am.
Let me tell you. I guarantee it wasn't personal just because because the emails that I've been sending and I work for them, it's just very slow responses because of coronavirus. And a lot of people are really overworked and nobody's in the office right now. So we're all trying to like get our shit together over like Zoom calls all the time. So a lot of things get lost in translation. So it's probably just that.
I was going to say it's probably because Virginia was on the show with us and she saw what he's like in real life, so she's like, nah, we're good.
She's like, that guy just won't shut up. He's going to have 17 articles a day. I mean, if he writes as much as he talks, none of our shit will get seen.
Exactly. So Olivia, I kind of want to ask a question, and you're more than welcome to tell me this is bullshit. But I hear a lot of, I went to work, I did a lot of this. I'm not hearing a lot of victimhood, and that's refreshing to, your person in your generation, 19 years old, most people I know are always about, oh, I can't do this because I'm only 19, or, the system won't allow me to do this or that. But it seems like you've been all about self-starter, get your, button work and go about it and just get stuff done. What's that like with people your own age that are kind of that other mindset where I want free college because I want it?
It's a little bit infuriating. And I'm not going to sit up here and act like I'm like from the hood and I have this like crazy struggle story. Like I grew up homeless and stuff. Like that's what made me into the person. I did not. I do have, I feel like a lot more privilege than at least half the country. So, I think it was just the way I was raised to be independent. And I've always been, like I said, I've always been in martial arts. I've always been like the magnet program. I've always just been trying to do new things, do new clubs, test to get into different programs. I think I've always been an overachiever. But when I do meet kids, who may be more privileged or less privileged than me. When I'm at college, you know, I know people who are like 24 and have never had a job before, who still spend money on their parents' credit card. You know, like there's a lot of people like that, and it's really infuriating. And especially when they're the people who want free college. I'm like, you don't even work at McDonald's. Like, you can't even get any job. Why do you want free college? Like, why are you in college if you can't get a job? So it's really, really infuriating to me, because when I went to school, I got a job. I was a server at Friendly's, which was literally the most hectic job I've ever had. But I had to do that so I can like literally afford to pay for shit while I'm at school. And then I knew a ton of other kids that were just, you know, spending money, like, you know, just everywhere. And I'm not jealous of kids who have money to spend, but it's the fact that they would be the same kids that are begging for free college. That's the part that pissed me off.
Yeah, I think we've gotten, and I say this, so Kyle and I are millennials. I think you would be Gen Z, correct? Yeah. Okay, so millennials suck. It's just the first thing. It's the only thing that can really be said about this, right? There's no generation that likes millennials. Millennials don't like millennials. Okay, even Gen Z. I've read articles now. It's like, oh, Gen Zers hate millennials.
Y'all.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
So I mean, hey, it is what it is. But I mean, there's this entitlement that came along with millennials, right? That like there was this culture of instant success, instant gratification, you know, and these parents who thought it was best to just dote and give the kid everything and do everything for the kid. And if your kid can't get into college, it's because you're not paying enough money or something, right? It's never about just the fact that, hey, your kid is kind of just a shithead and kind of just sucks, right? Like, I mean, right. That happens. If you don't ever make your kids fail, they never learn.
It was also our generation. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's also our generation where punishment, like adults spanking children in public, became very frowned upon, and was a call of action to the Child Protective Services. Whereas like when we grew out in the country, we were still kind of isolated by that because who's going to call CPS and dime box? But that was the thing. Like, we had friends who got spanked and called CPS on their parents, and it was something that came.
Had friends.
You did too.
I wouldn't have been friends with those people.
Okay. Well, what I will say though is like the majority of the criticisms I see of millennials, like the whole like I don't know, like the participation trophy thing, like, oh, millennials just want everything, blah blah blah. Your parents are boomers, I'm assuming.
61. Both of them born in 61. I'm not sure if that's considered boomer or not.
I think that's like the younger half of the boomers.
Yeah.
But they're the ones that were handing out the participation trophies, and now they're the ones mad that you guys act like this.
Yeah. So I will say
child psychology probably ruined everything in regards to like culture and how people act and behave amongst one another, because it all became about making sure little Johnny's feelings didn't get hurt, instead of little Johnny's a freaking schizo and needs to get his butt whooped so he acts right. But that's just my opinion.
It's very interesting.
It's like your son has cut up figures of dolls in his room, and he's taping them to the cat. This probably doesn't bode well for his future activity. Maybe you should, but he's just expressing himself. No, he's going to murder someone.
Bro, I knew kids like that were like, am I allowed to cuss on here?
Yes, we're SchuBros Unfiltered.
Okay, that's true. I was gonna say, I knew kids that were like fucked up in the head like that. Like, I knew this kid who like killed his hamster when he was like 13, and his parents didn't do shit about it. They were like, "Aw, boys will be boys," and it's like, what the fuck? Like,
I mean, we killed things at 13 too, but
that's
he strangled it to death. He was mad at it and strangled it to death.
We killed things at the age of 13, but that was on hunting trips.
I've hunted before too. He was just
shotguns
crazy.
And rifles. Yeah, no, we didn't manually strangulate shit.
We are getting a lot of questions from a specific person. So Moving Pictures on YouTube is asking, do you? So, and we're gonna jump topics here a little bit because this is a good question. I want to get it in, and I want to make sure he doesn't think we're not listening to him. Do you believe that the Black Lives Matter and Antifa movements represent a positive position for your generation?
No, overall, no. Here's the thing with Black Lives Matter, the organization and the phrase, I've been using them separately and not interchangeably. So I'll usually clarify the Black Lives Matter organization, because the organization has a lot of other policy attachments to it, like a lot of like the LGBTQ plus whatever the fuck agenda, and then like the breakdown of the nuclear family, and they want like higher social welfare programs. Like that shit has nothing to do with Black Lives actually mattering. Do I agree with the phrase that Black Lives Matter? Yeah, fuck, like, yeah. But there's the organization that I disagree with.
Yeah, the saying is something like, okay, if you say all lives matter, then you also agree that Black Lives Matter. Like, you can't then be like, oh, I'm not going to say Black Lives Matter. I'm going to say all lives matter. Well, it's kind of intertwined here, right? So, I mean, I can say Black Lives Matter. I can also say White Lives Matter. I can also say Blue Lives Matter. I can say every life matters. But we can say at this moment, you know, what was the meme? Like, okay, the house is burning down. You know, so you try to put the house out. You don't go water the other house because it's not on fire. Okay, it might light on fire, but it's not currently on fire. Let's take care of the one that's on fire currently. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues, and I agree with you. I think Kyle and I would both agree with you that the organization is completely separate from what you see a lot of the people on the streets or in the protests or anything like that.
Actually.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends, I've noticed a lot of my friends, even a lot of my white friends actually, have been posting things that are like, oh, donate to Black Lives Matter. Or I even had a friend that was like, donate to my Venmo and I'll donate it to Black Lives Matter. I was like, okay, I don't trust you. But a lot of people are collecting money.
I don't trust the donation for Black Lives Matters, because if you go to their website, it's Act Blue Charities or actblue.com. It claims it's a charity,
to the DNC.
But it then says it's actblue.com, not actbluecharities.com. And actblue.com, all of their money is going to, well, most of it was going to Bernie, but now that Bernie's out, now the Biden is the number 2 recipient of their funds. And I'm not sure how me donating to Black causes and Black issues and Black people in general should be funding a presidential campaign. And again, I can't 100% with veracity verify that is 100% where that money is going, because their website is all kind of confusing. But the main expenditures of actblue.com are the DNC, and we've seen over the course of the last couple weeks that the DNC obviously does not have the Black community's best wishes at heart. They care about the Black vote. They don't care about the Black people.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what do you think? And this is a sore subject, I understand, and I know this is a hard topic to tackle, because while I would argue that the left has done a lot of things and their policies have negatively impacted especially the Black community, the 1994 crime bill, the 1993 housing bill, the Great Society policies of Lyndon Baines Johnson, who is hugely racist. I can point you to an article from the labor director of the NAACP where he points out about all the racism in the unions and how they're keeping Blacks out of work and keeping Blacks out of skilled labor from the 1960s and 70s. And, it's Herbert Hill, who was the director of the NAACP labor department for 30-something years. So I think he would be an authority on the source. And I point this out to people on the left, and they're like, no, we're not racist. You're racist. And it's like, you can have good intent with your policies. You can try to make policies that you're trying to help people out, but they end up hurting people, and you have to understand why they're hurting people. And that I just literally, one of our, Kyle and I, good lefty friends on Twitter, Dan, if Dan's watching, hi, Dan. We were having a Twitter spat, and I kept just like, okay, prove to me the left's not racist, right? Like, I think the left is racist and you're saying they're not, but you are not offering any valid proof. And I'm offering you that, all of these things that say these things have disproportionately hurt the Black community. California has the highest wage gap amongst minority, has the highest minority poverty rate, it has the highest minority uneducated rate. Most police brutality, at least what we know of, is coming from states that are predominantly Democrat, predominantly left. So I guess the point is, we can talk about the people all day, and we could talk about the movements and all these things, but nothing occurs without a solution. So in your opinion, as a person who may or may not have been affected by these types of situations, what is something that you think could positively impact the community, the Black community and all minority communities, and also positively impact the nation as a whole?
That's a great question. I'm really glad you asked that because I was just talking to my mom about this earlier. So, you know how the common conservative talking points are Blexit, walk away, get off the Democratic plantation, all minorities, all black people need to, stop giving their vote away to the Democrats. I 100% agree with that. 95 or 90% of black people should not be giving their vote to one party. However, that does not mean we should vote Republican because I haven't seen a lot of reasons. They're just like, oh, the Democrats are bad. Yeah, okay, if your whole platform is the Democrats are bad, that means we should just vote third party. So what I've given to Republicans and a lot of like GOP strategists when they're like talking about the black vote is you have to have a black agenda. And I understand white Republicans, they don't like the whole quote unquote identity politics thing. They think it's like the devil. And I used to be like that. Like I used to be like, oh, I don't agree with identity politics. I don't see color. But color does exist and people are naturally tribal. That's just how it is. And so one of the biggest growing political movements within the black community is the ADOS, or Foundational Black American Political Movement. And ADOS is American Descendants of Slavery. And so I'm also ADOS. I'm an American descendant of slavery. What the movement is requesting is that any party, any politician that wants the black vote has to provide a black agenda. And so that can mean different things for different people. But the things that I believe would be beneficial, and this is controversial, I do believe in reparations. And I'll debate anyone about it. I believe in reparations. And then another thing that the Republicans need to get better with, war on drugs. That was a huge perpetrator of a lot of unnecessary black incarcerations. I love how people are getting woke to the crime bill of the Democrats, but Republicans passed their fair share of anti-drug laws.
Nixon and Reagan weren't particularly minority friendly.
Right.
Right.
So if we can undo some of that shit, that will be a great start. Another thing is regulation, and Trump has actually done pretty good with deregulating a lot of stuff. But what we need to do is do it in local governments. And I've seen people like, like Jesse Lee Peterson or whatever his name is, JLP. He's always like, oh, like black people need to wake up. They need to stop destroying their own communities and vote Republican. In like half of these places, Democrats run unopposed. There are no Republicans to vote for. There is no GOP there. And so the GOP has to make an effort. They have to make an effort because their whole big thing is we don't pander. We don't pander. That's why I don't know what they think is pandering, but that's why you don't have any black people in the party, because you don't pander. And by pandering, I mean you don't have an agenda specific for them.
Well, most Republicans pander to billionaires.
Oh,
right?
For sure.
So you won't get much argument when you criticize Republicans here because we're not Republicans, we're conservatives. And so we tend to vote with the Republican Party just because they more likely, line up with what we would vote for. But and I ran for Congress, and I ran as a Republican because third party is super hard, right? Like independents don't get anywhere. And so
that we kind of want to bring a
more conservative movement, into the GOP.
To the GOP, we want to be big tent. We want to be, we want to see the GOP wake up and realize that you're not going to continue winning elections unless you go after the gay vote, you go after the black vote, you go after the Mexican vote, and you go after all votes. Because if we're gonna sit here and preach individual liberty, we can't discriminate because everyone is an individual. So it doesn't matter what that person's individual beliefs are, as long as it aligns with the conservative / Republican mindset, then they need to be attracted to the party.
One of Kyle and I's first interviews we ever did on this channel was with the leader of the Texas Log Cabin Republicans, and it was right after the Texas GOP said that they were not going to allow the Log Cabin Republicans to caucus. And we had the leader, the president of the Texas Log Cabin Republicans, and it was like, why GOP? And I personally know the leader of the Texas GOP, and I was like, dude, like what? Like, okay, I don't care what your personal beliefs are or how you live your life inside your home. If you're going to vote for things that I agree with, like ending abortion, like, more freedom, less regulation, undoing taxes and things like this, I want you voting with me. I don't want to piss you off and give you a reason to go vote somewhere else. So why can we not? And it was all based on a Texas state senator who said, well, they don't believe in God the same way we do. And it was like, it was one of those check yourself before you wreck yourself kind of moments, you know, because it was like, you just excluded everybody who's not you.
Right.
It's like if you're Catholic, you just literally said, I don't care about the Protestant vote.
Yeah, you don't care about the Jewish vote or you know, there's probably a lot of people who are Muslim or Jewish that would more be likely willing to come to the conservative side for some of our viewpoints on things such as abortion, religious type things, but are hesitant because these people keep them out.
Right, exactly. Like I do believe in God, but when someone is like trying to make God a legislator, that turns me off because I don't know what God they believe in. I don't know what they believe God said. I don't know if I believe in the same book they believe in. I don't know if I go to the same type of church they go to. I don't want any type of person like that in a legislative position. I wholeheartedly believe in the separation of church and state right there.
We completely 100% agree. And so, you know, if you went to our website, him-ha.com, where you can find out about our great little stickers that we're now selling.
I'll get on later.
Yeah, Kyle will do. I wrote an article about the LGBTQ decision the other day, and it was, okay, from a conservative viewpoint, I don't know how you could argue against this decision. Like, I don't know how you could argue against Title VII being extended to people of LGBT. Like, the intent of that legislation was that you can't discriminate against people. They didn't specifically include LGBTQ, but that was written in 1964. So LGBTQ wasn't as big of an issue as it is now. But the intent of the bill is clear. They meant to say any reason for discriminating against a person cannot be a reason to fire them, right? Like, you can fire them for their job performance, you can fire yada, yada, blah, blah, but not because they believe in something different than you. And as a conservative, and maybe you agree or don't, you know, I'm a kind of person that says what you do in your home, as long as everybody in your home agrees and you're not harming somebody against their will, is your business. And what happens inside my home is my business, and we get to choose for each other. You get to choose for you what you want to do. Kyle gets to choose for himself. I think a lot of it's stupid, but he gets to choose for himself.
Right. Yeah, I feel the same way. When personally, I don't have a problem with gay marriage. That's one of the things I'm more socially liberal on, I guess. But if someone's religious, say someone's like super Catholic and has a problem with it, I don't give a fuck. Like, they can do what they want to do. Gay people can get married. That's my whole like libertarian philosophy, I guess. That's where my disgruntled libertarian comes into play.
So we've kind of deemed ourselves conservatarians. Like, we're conservative with libertarian tendencies. So
yeah.
Conservatarians. And I think I can't take credit for that. I saw it on Topher Town Music's TikTok channel. Like, that's what he deemed himself as well. And I started thinking about it. I was like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. So I want to ask you a question about something you mentioned earlier and how you would implement it, because for the life of me, I don't know how it would be done. You brought up reparations, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was 40 acres and a mule was promised.
That was the original promise, yes.
So, and obviously that did not get put into effect. How in this day and age would that get implemented? Would you have to be able to prove lineage of a slave like yourself? And who would pay for it? Because that's the really big question, is who would pay for it?
Right. So I don't know what a lot of other people think about reparations, but my form of reparations is not just for slavery. It's for the Reconstruction period. It's for Jim Crow. It's for redlining. It's for the institutionalized racism that American descendants of slavery have faced for hundreds of years. So it's not just the chattel slavery. Being that as it is, tracing anyone's lineage back to Jim Crow is super not hard, because that's literally my grandparents who are literally still alive. And I'm 19, so obviously people have parents or they themselves have grown up during segregation. So I honestly don't think that part of tracing lineage would be super difficult, especially since my grandfather, he has no formal training. We've never done a DNA test. He even found pictures of our slave ancestors and found like a whole bunch of documents. So, I don't know, if the government could like mass do that in a productive way, I'm pretty sure it would turn out pretty pretty okay. But then again, I don't really trust the government for anything. But that's kind of not my. Sorry, go ahead.
What would you say about all of the Slavic and Irish people who were enslaved in the United States? Are they entitled to those reparations as well, or is it just simply African slaves?
So, like I said, it's not just for slavery, it's for the 400 years of institutionalized racism. So, if you can find me an Irish slave that was alive and suffered from a lack of generational wealth because of chattel slavery, generational chattel slavery, then yeah, I would say give them reparations. And I'm not saying that that doesn't exist, I just don't know of it.
Well, I would say New York 1920s, 1930s, the Irish were fairly hated. They were called WAPs, which stood for without papers. Generally were treated pretty badly. The Italians
Italians as well.
Yeah, the Italians didn't really like them. And the Irish and Italians didn't get along. They were both forced into mostly criminal activity, which is why we saw so much of the Irish and Italian mafias emerge, especially in the late 20s, early 30s, because they mostly had to resort to illegal activity to be able to survive.
Right. So if you can, I'm not Irish, I'm not Italian, so what I'm more well versed in is the Black history of it. But if someone was able to prove that Irish or Italians or both had a widespread lack of generational wealth in 2020 because of that, then I would agree.
Okay. So, and I guess to follow up on Kyle's second part of his question is who pays, like, because Kyle and I mean, of course, we weren't alive during this time, and even our ancestors weren't. I mean, they were farmers. They didn't have anything to do with making sure people weren't getting access, and of course, they weren't even here. They weren't even in this country during the years of slavery or Civil War, and they got here, pretty late into the game there. If we're gonna look at, say, okay, who pays for this? How do we figure that out?
Okay, well, I think again you're forgetting. I'm talking about Jim Crow too. So your parents, grandparents, they're very much alive during. I guess your grandparents, but very much alive during that. So that's it. It includes everything that happened.
I understand you're talking about Jim Crow as well, and I guess are we held bound to the sins of our forefathers? I guess
I'm not saying you have to open your purse. I definitely believe it's the U.S. government's responsibility. I don't believe taxes should be raised for it. I don't believe that I think that it's kind of it's their fault. It's their debt to pay. It's not the American taxpayers' debt to pay. So we already have hella high taxes, and I do believe that we can lower taxes and pay reparations at the same time by cutting a lot of social welfare programs.
Okay,
so that was my follow-up question. And Ross, I literally do have that written down. You do see generations of Black communities that have been on welfare. So if they were to receive the reparations, would they then have to give up welfare, which you kind of already answered? What would you like to see as far as welfare moving forward if reparations were to be paid?
So here's how I reconcile being pro reparations as a fairly anti-taxation libertarian. I don't think that reparations are a form of social welfare. What I think can be very productive and successful is if we remove a lot of social welfare programs, remove regulations. So I want to see Black people be able to open up businesses without a lot of the hoops and red tape that we have to go through in Democratic controlled inner cities. So I'm not really blaming like white people or Republicans. It's just the fact like progressive policies have really hurt us as a ethnicity, as an ethnic group in America. So take away social welfare, take away the regulations, basically free market capitalism, take this money, which is a debt that is owed. It's not, let me help you out because you're poor. It's a debt that is owed. That's the difference in my eyes between reparations and welfare. But take this money and invest it, buy your business, order your products, do whatever you want to do. It's really not up to me. I'm not interested in telling people what to do with their money. I do want people to be wise with it. But yeah, after that, I don't want any type of really like social welfare programs that we, at least to the extent that we do have them.
So, okay. And so there's some things there that I like that you said. some things that there's a part of me that would argue. So I'm a incremental. I preach incrementalism. Kyle will hear this word a billion times. Incrementalism, which is where the left took 40 to 50 years to destroy the system to the point they have, right? And there's a lot of things where when we as conservatives get out and say, well, we need to do this, 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 and this, that we can never get any headway with it because we want all or nothing, right? We never can just say, okay, let's take some small wins and build our way. Yeah. And we saw President Trump kind of come out about it today. Like, look, okay, we don't own the court. Like Justice Roberts is not a conservative in any shape, form, fashion. He's not. He never has been. If you were looking for a conservative justice, he wouldn't be high on your list. Gorsuch is fairly conservative. Kavanaugh is kind of conservative. Of course, Thomas is mostly conservative. But, you know, Roberts sides with the liberal side much more often than he sides with the conservative side. But the court is a way that the left has been able to manipulate policy in the country. We saw it today with the DACA decision. We've seen it with the border wall decisions. We've seen a lot of different decisions that the court has dictated. What is a policy that you think has a legitimate chance of getting passed through Congress within the next year that you think would definitively impact the black community?
I would have to go with deregulation first, before anything, because I think that's the main thing that's hindering black business, because the majority of black business are in these Democratic controlled cities. So the example that I like to use the most often is so hair is like a huge part of like the black culture, like braiding hair, twisting hair, dreadlocks, afros, all that jazz. But a lot of black businesses have been shut down. Like cosmetology, hair businesses have been shut down because they are not up to the par of the cosmetology course, which is required in each state to open your business. When you look at the cosmetology course, it's not a course on black hair. It's a course on white hair or unnatural hairstyles on black or Afro textured hair. And so that just really kind of shows me how the government bureaucracy works. It'll make you take a class and pay thousands of dollars for a license that you won't even need to do your job. And then it'll shut down your business if you don't do it. So just shit like that, where it's like unnecessary regulations. I'm a very big proponent of the free market. So I'm like, I saw a video the other day that I reposted on my Twitter where there was a cop confiscating cash from a guy. I think he was like Mexican or something. I don't think he spoke a lot of English, but he had a taco stand on the side of the road, and the cop was taking the cash and confiscating the shit because he didn't have a permit to be out with a taco stand on the road. So not black, but that happens in black communities too, with not necessarily a taco stand, but any other type of stand. So
you saying black people don't make tacos?
Not like that. But yeah, deregulation would be the first thing. If
it was some short rib tacos, that would be the bomb.
That would smack, actually.
Let's
Franklin's, South Austin.
Let's face facts. Black y'all's people know how to make some damn fine ribs.
My mom is white, if you couldn't tell, but I just had the best ribs ever. She makes ribs all the time. So
should you get half a reparations check?
I'm actually not in the business to get myself reparations. I actually kind of don't care if I get them or not.
So I think that's the mentality I was looking for, because I was kind of starting to wonder, because a lot of your attitude didn't jive with that message. It was like, wait a minute, she's a go-getter, a self-starter, a hard worker, and then wait. Free money. Wait, where did we go here?
Hey, let's face facts. Ain't no one turning down free money.
Hey man, my stimulus check's in the bank.
Well, here's what I think about that. Because like I said earlier, I don't think it's welfare. I don't think it's free money. I think it's a debt that's owed. I think it's just like getting your debt paid back from someone who owes you money. So I don't think it's free money. But if we were to look at it in that light, I'm not in the business to get free money or to get reparations necessarily, even for myself. If I have to champion this reparations thing and it gets all the way to the top and they're like, by the way, if you don't have two black parents, you get reparations, I'd say put it through, because I want shit for my grandparents that actually went through this shit. I want shit for everyone who went through that shit.
Would there be a form of reparations that would be more acceptable than a direct cash payment? Say access to credit, for starting a business, like a 100% backed government loan where you're going to get this loan 100%. There's no chance you're going to not get it. And if you happen to fail with certain conditions, we're not going to force you to pay it back.
That is, yeah, I've written about this before. So my opinion has actually changed from something like that. I wrote an article for Porter Medium back in December. So it lists out a few different plans where I have ideas for loans, ideas for tax breaks, things like that. My opinion has since shifted to lean more towards direct payment because I feel like that would better repay the debt. But if it's a kind of thing like you were talking about, how change must be made in increments, I would rather something like that be passed than nothing at all, because I know it would be super hard to get past. It would be super hard to get past a lot of Democrats, much less Republicans. So if it was something more mild, like a tax break or a loan or something like that, I wouldn't be super mad about it.
Okay. The gentleman who was asking all the questions wanted to thank you for answering the questions, and that he will watch the rest of this later. We definitely appreciate you joining the show, sir. Sorry about that. I had to try not to burp.
Okay. So I do have one more question on that topic. I guess I have one more question on that topic. What is the amount? Like what? So, we did the 40 acres and a mule, and I understand that people are now saying, okay, that wasn't actually enough, right? Or that was, and then, okay. And you pointed out correctly that there was issues beyond that, right? That wasn't the end of racism or the end of, black people not being able to get jobs in the United States. But what is, because I've unfortunately, although you may be reasonable in what your interpretations of reparations are, I do feel there's other people that are vastly unreasonable. I've heard numbers ranging from 50,000 per person to 300,000 per person. When you say 300,000 by the entire population of Africa, and these are always, if you're black, you get it. No direct lineage of slavery necessary. You get it if you
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that shit. Like, if you just got off the boat, you're not getting shit.
Yeah. So I mean, and now the kind of thing I'm hearing is like, oh well, no, this needs to be a 2 or 3 time payment, not a one-time thing. This needs to be more often than not, or we went through this many years of this, so we need this many years of of compensation. Therefore, can we put a number on it, or is this going to be one of those topics where in 10 years, if we did it 10 years later, people would say, okay, now we need more?
I'm not sure what people's reactions would be, but what I use as kind of a parameter is I look at the disparity between white families and black families' generational wealth. So the average white family generational wealth is well into the 6 figures. The average black family's generational wealth is between being negative and being $11,000. So there's a huge disparity there. So I'm not an economist. Like, I can't say what 40 acres and a mule would equal in today dollars.
Depends on where the land is.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I can put an exact number on it, but something to close the gap between generational wealth would be huge.
So as an actual economist, a guy who's studying for a PhD in economics, so one of the things we study, and I study behavioral economics, one of the things we study is spending habits, how people spend money. And the thing about generational wealth is people who build generational wealth tend to not spend very much money. That's how they're able to build generational wealth. And this happens over time. And what usually happens is 3 or 4 generations will build the wealth, and one generation will come through and they'll be undisciplined and they'll crash the wealth. And then 3 or 4 generations will build it back up, and so forth, so on. A large part of what we see is that people who have poor spending habits, you can give them a lot of money, they still have poor spending habits, right? NFL players have a tendency to go bankrupt right after they stop playing football because they don't understand that the money's going to turn off at some time, and they're no longer going to be able to spend the way they're spending now. And they can't, they leverage a lot of debt based off of their salary. They don't buy things in cash. They leverage debt. So a thing we have asked for and a thing we're pushing for is education, school choice, letting mothers in downtrodden areas of the country take their kids to a school somewhere else and not pay fees for doing so, and not have to go through a rigmarole, not go through a hassle. Just be able to say, my kid's going to a school that sucks, and I'm going to take him to this other kid school over in this other neighborhood, and I'm going to enroll them there. And I have every right to do so because I choose so. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't really think it's so it's the government's job to repay the debt. I don't think it's the government's job to babysit and make sure people are spending the money correctly. I guess for maximum efficiency or effectiveness, we could split the payment up, but not over like several generations or several years. But just so people obviously don't just blow it all on Vegas. But again, if you're a smart person, you'll know what to do. If not, then you'll just spend it all and push the economy a little bit forward. But like I said, it's not. I don't think it's the government's job to be like, okay, we're giving you a little bit of money, like don't spend it here. Like I don't know. But I am a big proponent of school choice, so that is a thing that could help, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, education, especially financial literacy, right? Understanding time value of money, understanding, how to utilize the markets, how to grow your wealth, right? Not just buy things, but actually grow your wealth and grow your asset base. And, okay, buying cars is kind of stupid because they lose so much value right away. It's a horrible investment. Don't buy cars. Right. Like buy used cars, buy old cars. Don't buy Kyle cars because Kyle buys broke down cars.
I have not done that since I was in college. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I paid the price for that. You still owe me for that fuel.
No.
Anyway, there's a lot of things we could do. And so I'm not wholesale against the idea of reparations, but we have to, I do, and I think you could tell by the questions I've asked, I want to make sure we define what we're going to do very well.
Yeah.
And we have a definitive answer. And that, I want to make sure that the answer is an answer that's going to be the answer, right? Like it's not going to be, okay, we spend the one I saw was the one guy wanted $14 trillion total. And whether you say don't raise taxes, that just means we're at deficit financing it. And 11% of our yearly budget from the government already goes to paying interest on our debt. We don't pay any principal at all whatsoever on our debt. We only pay interest. 11% of our current budget goes to just paying that interest. So that's a significant chunk of our budget that's going to that. And every year that we just raised our debt by $2 trillion in like 3 months. So if we added 14 trillion to that of the already 26 trillion, you'd be talking about time and a half of our current debt. The interest on that's going to go up. We're going to look at about 15 to 16% of our budget would be just simply paying the interest on our debt, not paying any bit of the principal down.
So first off, 14 trillion, like to me, that's such a big number. I can like hardly even like visualize it. And I haven't done the math of like, I know what figure you're talking about. I've seen the article that you're referencing. And I don't know how that would break down. Like, I don't know how much that is per person or how much that is per family.
300,000 per what the article, because it's by the founder of BET. He's the one suggesting this. Of course, it's not his money, so a lot easier to swallow, I guess. But it's 300,000 per black family in the United States is the figure he's using.
Okay. I honestly wouldn't go that far because the average white generational wealth, the average white family is not worth $300,000. It's more like $150,000. So even if we're making all things equal, it wouldn't even be half of that really. So I would not request a number like 14 trillion at all. My solution to not add on to the national deficit as much is like I said, these fucking welfare programs that just let us basically rot in the ghetto, like cut all that shit. Then I honestly think we would be spending a lot. I think the budget would shrink if we just had reparations in place of a lot of these social welfare programs.
I mean, there's a lot of conservatives for the last 20 years who have really wanted that to happen, but it doesn't seem, because of how our Congress works. When we start talking about taking away people's money, it doesn't get votes very quickly.
Right.
So
but Yeah, well, it's because the Democrats don't frame it in a way that it's like, we're going to raise all your taxes and we're also going to regulate the shit out of you. Because they make it sound like a great deal, but it literally never ends up being a great deal. So if I was a Republican strategist and I was trying to get votes for the package that included reparations, but cut all the welfare and the single motherhood shit, I would be like, your taxes are going to go way down. And I'm speaking to Black people in urban areas. Your taxes are going to go way down. You're going to have so much money to invest in your business, you won't even need our shit. You won't need it. And on top of that, we're going to deregulate your schools. You're going to have school choice. I just think the way I would explain it would sound much better than the way the Democrats explain their plan. And it would actually be the truth. It wouldn't be lying to them and saying that we're going to give you all this shit and then like sneakily raise your taxes.
I like it. So we have brushed on the subject a time or two, and I think it's finally time to go ahead and address the issue that you did post on Twitter the other day, and that is that you celebrated your 7-month anniversary of surviving a scare. Would you like to go ahead and go into more detail on that one?
Sure. So I have clinical depression. That's not a secret. I've talked about it before. I was diagnosed like 15 or 16. So it's been a while. But so in my main post, I don't know if you saw my pinned post on Twitter, my pinned tweet, but so it was more of a deeper story. So I'm a big advocate for sexual assault survivors, physical abuse survivors, because I've been through that shit. And I feel like a lot of that affected my mental state, maybe like just super insecure, super depressed, super not hopeful for the future. And then there's a lot of stuff that I didn't put in there because it's just too personal, not ready to talk about, whatever. But I would say the main traumas were going through a lot of sexual abuse in my high school years, which just led to me just being depressed as shit. So I got a lot of questions. They were like, I guess I wasn't clear with the overdose post. I just didn't think it would blow up as it did. I got a lot of questions like, oh, like, what do you do? Like drugs? Like, are you on heroin? That's not the case. I don't do any hard drugs. It was like over the counter Tylenol. I took the entire bottle. It was like 100 pills of, I don't know what the pill size was. But it was like the normal one, not like baby aspirin or whatever. It was the normal one. But I took that. It was after like a really horrible breakup, and I was just at like my lowest point ever. I had just gotten into a fight with my roommate. I was home from school. Like just everything that could have gone bad in that year. And again, it's like a lot of stuff I'm not even talking about yet, but everything that could have gone bad like last semester just went to shit. And like, of course, like all the trauma was coming back, and yeah, just a lot of bad stuff happened. So I was like, this is the only way out. And obviously it wasn't, because I'm still here. Thank the Lord. But I spent like 2 days just like throwing up in my room, just like on the floor. It's very painful. No one ever talks about that. It's very painful to overdose because your whole stomach is like just churning. Like all your organs are just like not functioning. So a family member ended up taking me to the hospital. It was too late to pump my stomach by then, of course, because I had taken it like maybe on a Friday and I went in on like a Sunday. But they started giving me medication. I ended up being allergic to the medication. So I was like, holy shit, like I really am going to die. And the doctor told me I was going to die, which was a really weird experience because I did not expect a doctor to say some shit like that. But I spent a week in the ICU on a bunch of meds. I was on bed rest, couldn't walk, could hardly do shit. And I spent it was over a week. It was like 8 days in a psych unit because they won't let you like right back out on the street after you do that shit. And then went home. And then I went to work at the Daily Caller like 2 weeks later. And that's the story.
Well, we're happy you're okay.
So like, obviously obviously you have a higher purpose. Someone upstairs was looking out for you.
That's what I was thinking, because it wasn't even just one doctor that told me I was going to die. It was like 2 or 3. So I feel like that was it was a crazy amount of pills I took. If you take 100 pills, you die. That's just how it works. Even if it's something pretty tame like aspirin, Tylenol, that you're just not meant to take that amount. So I do think that kind of solidified a belief in a creator, in a God, in someone upstairs that was just like, you have a purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And do you feel that purpose is anything political? Like, do you think that you're meant to run for office, that you're meant to serve on a city council, state rep, Senate, or U.S. federal level?
What I feel like I've been called to do is help people in any way that I can, but on a pretty high level, not necessarily like the feds or anything. And I don't think I've been specifically called to run for office, but I am open to it, and it is something that I am interested in. But I think my overall purpose and overall goal is to just help as many people as possible. And a lot of people would say that being a politician is like the exact opposite of what you should do. But I view being a politician as being a public servant. And like I said, with the reparations thing before, I'm not in it to get reparations. If they decide that mixed people or people with a white parent can't get reparations, that's fine. I'm not in it for any type of personal gain or any shit like that.
That's interesting to say the least. With school, how have they, like, especially with Corona going on and this instance happening? I'm not going to mention where you go to school, but how have they treated you?
It's on Twitter.
It's not.
Oh, it's not on Twitter. Never mind.
No, I had to take it down, actually. My school was like pretty pissed about it.
So how have they treated you since all of this has happened? Have they kind of been laissez-faire, or have they kind of come down on you for, being political, for being conservative, for being a survivor, or anything of that nature? Or have they just kind of let you be and let you do your own thing?
So what had happened was, that took place late December. I did it like right before Christmas. So late December, early January. This semester didn't start in time. So I did go back to school after that. So I moved into my dorm and everything. And then I just realized like I wasn't mentally prepared to go back to the same environment that I was feeling so alone in. You know what I mean? So that's when basically my parents made this decision, but I guess I followed through with it because it's not like I tried to like run away or anything. But I was doing the semester at home, like online. Mm-hmm. And then I was doing the internship. So yeah. So I can't answer for sure what the reaction will be when I go back. I didn't tell a lot of people. I mean, now it's out now, but I don't know. I have like 40K, so I don't even know who follows me on Twitter from school. Like I'd have to scroll through all like the shit to find it.
So I do want to say one thing real quick. So for anybody who's watched the last few minutes and has noticed me moving around a lot, and I thought maybe I wasn't paying attention or I was not giving this story the gravitas that it deserves, I definitely want to tell you I was listening. I just had a minor work emergency happen, so I kind of had to step out. I didn't want to, of course, distract or take away from that. So I wanted to be sure to handle that without the taking away from what you were saying there, Olivia. But to anybody who was watching who didn't notice it, I was on the phone talking to coworkers trying to get something straight. I've got a very large project going on, so I apologize if it seemed that I was not being sensitive. Of course I am. So we're very happy that that you didn't die. I mean, first of all, because I mean, that's of course, that's the most important thing. Number two, we're happy that you have had a positive outlook on this, that you have taken a negative and you're turning it to a positive.
Yeah, right? That's now, exactly what I tried to do. Yeah.
I can say you have 40,600 more Twitter followers than I do. But,
sorry.
But I have
everything's about Twitter for us.
I have a blue check mark. And I just noticed.
True. How did you get that? By the way,
he ran for Congress is the only thing I think.
I had it at 34 followers.
I think Damani's watching the show.
I run for Congress just to get. Should I run for office just to get the blue check? I might.
You should.
Oh yeah.
And the nice thing,
25 though.
No, if she runs for a local district or something like that, she can. She can
run. If she runs for U.S. Congress.
Yeah, U.S. Congress is 25. Yeah.
Okay, I'll run for mayor or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So most political candidates, the story is most political candidates get a verified Twitter account. So the easiest way is just to say that you're going to run for some So literally, I started Twitter. I literally only started Twitter because I had a campaign and it was like, okay, I'm gonna do some campaign outreach, and I had a very low budget campaign. We got donations, but we didn't get, the donations to go compete against the other people. So we were trying to spend our money very carefully. And one day, all of a sudden, with 28 or 34 followers on Twitter, I get an email from Twitter saying your Twitter account is now verified. Please check your Twitter account to say that you have a blue check mark.
You didn't even apply for it or anything?
When you're me, you don't have to do that.
Sure.
Okay, so I would like to know, because every other freaking journalist on Twitter, everyone else who writes for the Daily Caller, they're all verified. So where is my check? I want it.
I don't have one either, but
so Twitter has now given a thing where you can give away your check mark.
That was fake.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Twitter. No, the official Twitter account said it was photoshopped. It was fake.
Okay. So I was going to say, if you give me half your followers, I'll give you my check mark.
I don't know how I would transfer followers. I should be like, all right, 20,000 of you unfollow me. Go follow.
You don't even have to unfollow you. Like I'm just trying to bridge the Twitter wealth gap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we should redistribute the followers.
We should redistribute Twitter followers.
You don't really need to redistribute them. You just need to push them to follow both of you.
So what I need,
we'd be okay with that.
Is for the next 5 days for you just to say, hey, go follow this dude on Twitter.
Here's what I'll do. I'll post the link to this. And I'll say, go follow this man, or else
these two Duma Hazels.
Yeah,
these two Duma Hazels are fun to talk to. I had a great time, and please use the word Duma Hazel because we'll
fun to see how people spell it.
Yeah, that too.
What word is that?
Duma Hazel.
What is
it's
that?
German for dumbass.
Dumbass.
I don't know if I can attempt to do that. It might come out as like a racial slur or something. I don't know. It sounds pretty rude.
We're fine with it.
You're fine with it?
We call ourselves highly educated morons. So.
Yeah, him and Hall stands for highly educated morons that talk hunting, ammo, and whiskey.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a Twitter troll, just for anybody who doesn't know. And I enjoy fact checking people on Twitter. I also enjoy just when people post shit about economics, because it's like, you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and I do. So I can win this pretty quick, especially when they start talking about modern monetary theory, because that's completely debunked. Look at Venezuela. It tanked Venezuela. But with that being said, we get called morons quite often, especially on our Twitter and on our YouTube channel. Some guy just like started going to all of our YouTube pages, all of our YouTube videos, and like putting comments underneath like, you guys are idiots, or look at these neckbeards. And it was like, dude, we call each other worse on this show. Like,
right.
like you're not saying shit that's gonna hurt our feelings. If you think we're upset about this, you are completely wrong. But so we said, you know what? If they're gonna say it, we're gonna make some money off of it.
I get the same thing. People call me like a coon or Uncle Tom all the time. I'm like, do you know how many times I've been called that? Like, that shit literally does not faze me. Like, especially if you've actually read the book Uncle Tom's Cabin. He was like the good guy in it.
I was gonna say Uncle Tom would be more of a. Isn't that more of a compliment than anything? Our buddy Damani and I believe Topher both are going to be in the upcoming documentary called Uncle Tom.
Are you talking about Damani's brother?
Yeah, Damani Felder. Yeah.
Oh, he's my best friend. I love him.
Yeah, he and his
our
brother and I.
Friend.
His brother and I were.
That's a lie.
His brother and I were in the Corps of Cadets together at the same time at Texas A&M.
All right, maybe you guys are closer friends than me and Damani.
No, the older brother, Trey.
Oh,
Trey
okay.
and I were in the Corps together, and then recently reconnected because I
want to show you the number. Well, there you go. There's Trey.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. So, and I'm gonna go help him install a grill guard on his Honda here pretty soon. So I don't know how good of friends you are with him.
Well, listen, I got drunk at the White House with Damani, so
that's pretty bad.
That's kind of better.
Wait, hold on.
Wait, 19-year-old
Yeah, that was the question.
Wait, I wasn't supposed to say that. I wasn't supposed to say that. Actually,
we've got many a fun
news.
story. We've got many a fun story about getting drunk underage. Don't worry, Ross.
SBUs with the heartbreaking news here.
Listen.
Where's my little scroller on the bottom?
This is live, by the way.
Yeah, this is live, and I'm not going to go back and edit this.
We're lazy. We don't know how.
Mom's gonna watch. She's gonna know.
Listen, first of all, Damani, I'm so sorry I exposed you like that. But the White House, we were there last Black History Month. They invited like a bunch of like social media influencers to the White House. So of course my famous ass was there, and Damani was there too. And they had an open bar, and they were not checking for ID. And I look older than I am, I think. But
she never did answer that question earlier, by the way.
What?
Who's older?
Oh, I think Ross is older.
That's common.
This is why I got to drink at 18 years old.
Am I right? Wait, am I right?
No.
Really?
Kyle's 3 years older than me. So when Kyle was 21,
have 5 kids.
About to be 6.
I've got one on the way.
Oh my God, are you guys Mormon or something?
No, he's Catholic. I'm Lutheran.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That actually makes sense.
My wife's Catholic, though.
Don't be a religious bigot, all right?
I didn't say anything bad.
So
you implied it. It's okay.
You're stereotyping, and stereotyping is wrong.
But no, let me be clear.
The cops were pulling over everybody that was driving down that sidewalk that night.
That was the only reason I thought you were older, though. I can't really gauge who looks physically older. It was just because you said you had 5 kids. So I was like, 5 kids? Like, you're probably older.
So Kyle has always had a baby face, and I've always had an old man face. So our people have always assumed I'm older than Kyle. And so the great story here is there was a day that I was in College Station because I was going to Blinn, the junior college there in College Station. I was in the National Guard, and Kyle was at A&M. So we were going to meet up at Buffalo Wild Wings, as you do on a Thursday. You go get some B-dubs, right? And
25-cent wings, man.
There you go. Well, it's not anymore.
No.
Anyway, so I show up a little bit early with a buddy of mine, and the waitress comes over, and she goes, "Hey, do you want anything to drink?" And it was a waitress Kyle and I had pretty often. So I was like, "Hey, yeah, I want a whiskey and Coke." Just figuring she'd laugh it off and be like, "Oh, what do you really want?" And she's like, "Okay," writes it down and goes gets me a whiskey and Coke. So I text Kyle, and I go, "Do not show up, because I will go to jail."
I was like, I get this text message, and I'm just like, what in the hell is he doing? But we coordinate it. So he tells me exactly where he's sitting, and I come in and I look where I can see him, and he gets up because he's done. He gets up and leaves, and I go and sit in his exact seat. I take over his spot. The waitress comes up to me and goes, "Oh, fuck." I went, "I've been a great customer of yours, tip you well. Why are you cussing at me?" She goes, "You have not been sitting here for the last 30 minutes, have you?" I was like, "No, I just got here. Why are you cussing at me?" She goes, "Oh, fuck." I was like, "Did you serve someone you weren't supposed to?" Oh, fuck.
Oh, no.
So yeah, as soon as she saw me, she's like,
"Get as much trouble as I could." So we were even, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So Olivia, I mean, there's so much we've gone over tonight, and there's a lot of great information. I want to thank you so much for coming on, but I want to open it up right now to you. Is there a topic that we haven't gone over that you would like us to? Is there something? I mean, we're just kind of
cover current events and all the bullshit that's going on in the world right now.
We did a little bit. We talked about Black Lives Matter a little bit, but I mean, is there something more you want to talk about? I mean, what's important to you that we haven't covered?
When Kyle first hit me up to do the show, I think he said more talking about like the looting and like the George Floyd shit, but that was a couple weeks ago.
Well, we have the new one with was it Rayshard
Brooks?
That's not a case I'm super familiar with because I saw a lot of conflicting information about like he was armed, he was not armed, he shot the taser, he didn't shoot the taser. So
that's fair.
Yeah, I don't want to incriminate myself here by giving the wrong opinion because I don't really know a lot about it.
So Kyle and I like to say that we don't have wrong opinions. We have opinions that have yet to be fully formed.
Yeah,
that's very true.
And we reserve the right to change them as new information comes to light.
Right.
But the synopsis that I've seen so far, and this is what I've seen and what I've seen other people cover, is that he was pulled over he wasn't really pulled over. He was, the cops knocked on his window because he fell asleep in a Wendy's drive-through lane, drunk as a skunk.
He had just been released from prison due to a COVID issue.
Yeah.
Wait, why was he in prison for? Oh, okay.
For DUI. He had previous DUIs.
No. He was in prison for assaulting his child.
Okay, sorry.
Not that results in a death. I don't want to conflate that, right?
No,
George Floyd's past should not have meant that the officer gets to put his knee on his neck for 8.5 minutes, right? That doesn't. No. It doesn't. I'm not equating that. I'm not saying I'm not pulling a Candace Owens here and saying that his history. I don't care. She can hate me for my life. I don't care.
I'm not mad at it. I just didn't expect you to say that because I feel like a lot of her fans would. I don't know.
It's like
I don't know. I know Candace. I've talked to her before. We have
happy to have her on the show, but
we have our differences. I think the last time we spoke was a couple weeks ago. We definitely have our differences on the issue. We ended up getting in a Twitter argument about it, and a lot of people saw it. So
okay. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, he was there was a compound of errors, I think is what Kyle is saying.
Yeah, so he drunk, got woken up, did a sobriety test, everything was going okay, and then they went to put him under arrest, like actually put him in handcuffs, and when they went to do that, then he physically assaulted them, started a fight, punched one of them in the face square, got a good lick in, and then in the process of trying to flee, grabbed the taser from the cop, and as he was fleeing, he turned around and pointed the taser at him. It's hard to tell if he shot it or not, but he definitely pointed it at him. And then that's when the officer shot him.
He shot him in the back, right?
Back/side.
We don't know yet. We haven't gotten the ballistics yet. I think because the way the video looked when I saw it was that he had turned to fire the taser, and I mean it depends on what angle exactly because it's hard to tell right where the cop was standing, and it was definitely the back cop. It looked like who fired, not the front cop, because it looked like the front cop was falling to the ground at the moment. But I expect side to mid back is where we'll see the entry wounds.
But they fired the cops
and now have charged them with felony murder.
Charged them with murder. And because of that, last night, 60+% of officers said and didn't show up for work.
Yeah.
So that's the situation we're in at this time. So plus Antifa burnt down the Wendy's.
Oh.
Yeah, which was super helpful. That really, that helped bridge the wealth gap in between the communities.
That was reparations.
That was sure. Because who works. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I'll give you my honest opinion on the situation. I think the cops should have been fired, but not because they shot the guy. I think the cops should have been fired because if they were not wusses that got their ass handed to them, 2 cops couldn't subdue 1 dude. I'm sorry.
A drunk dude who just woke up.
Yeah. I mean, the dude looked like he was a strong dude, but you're 2 cops. This is your job. This is what you're supposed to do. If you're not able to handle your job, you shouldn't have this job, right? I'm not a cop, so I don't have to do this. Right? It's not part of my job because I know that that's not the life I want to live, and I don't want to have to fight people in the street and my life depend on it. So I'm not a cop. So I think the 2 cops should have been fired for that reason. That if they had been able to subdue the guy, there never becomes an instance where a shot needs to be fired. And I think in the George Floyd case, if they had properly subdued him, put him in handcuffs, laid him flat on his stomach, you don't need a knee on the neck, right? There's no need for it. He could have laid there with his hands in cuffs. I don't know if you've ever tried. Have you ever tried to stand up with your hands tied behind your back?
No.
It's super difficult unless you have phenomenal abdominal muscles, or you're one of the people who. Yeah, well, she might, but most people, and a normal person, and a guy who's drunk and already, not able to properly stand or do things, is definitely not going to be able to stand up from the ground on his stomach with his hands tied behind his back.
Right.
So I think if the cops put him in handcuffs, it's a different story. And I think in the case of Rayshard Brooks, I think the cops should be fired. But I do believe that the cops acted in self-defense. And I don't believe they should be charged with murder in this case. But I do believe they should be fired from the force for not being able to properly subdue a suspect.
Yeah, because as many people have pointed out, the taser is a less than lethal device. It's not
less lethal weapon, not less than lethal.
Sorry. Yes, you're right. My bad. Less lethal device meaning it can still be lethal. If you get hit in the heart, you get hit in the brain, more than likely you are not recovering from that shock. And the mayor of Atlanta had even previously stated, like within 2 weeks, that tasers are lethal devices or less lethal devices. So she's contradicting her, or I think it's a she, is contradicting herself and saying that, oh, it's less than lethal now because it was used to kill somebody, or, you know, it was used as justification to kill somebody. But yeah, it's been a very interesting last couple weeks. It's been hard to do, not necessarily hard. It's just been interesting to do our show because almost everything
has revolved around that.
Current events wise is revolving around George Floyd, this situation, and or the Chaz, which is the CHOP, which is something else now.
Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone.
Yeah,
now it's the occupied province.
Oh, why'd they do that?
I don't know.
Because autonomous means that they're autonomous means that they are separate from the U.S., meaning that they are foregoing their citizenship and technically seceding from the Union. Therefore, we could then, wipe them off the earth. Oh, okay. So they don't want to give up their citizenship. They still want to.
We could get our 25 kill streak in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Oh my God, that's so fucked up. Okay, but here's the one case that I do want to talk about. Here's the one case because Ahmaud Arbery was the case that me and Candace were arguing about.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen Candace tweet anything to acknowledge the preliminary findings in the case once the hearing started, or Brandon Tatum or JLP or any of the other people that were basically just like, this guy's not a jogger. It was not racially motivated, whatever. Because I don't know if you guys listened to or read the transcripts to the preliminary hearings that started a week or two ago.
I haven't, no.
Okay.
No.
So here's what came out in the first day. The man that video recorded it from the truck, he testified to hearing Travis McMichael call Ahmaud an effing N-word as he shot him. And it also came out, I believe it was one of the McMichaels. It wasn't the third guy that recorded it, but one of them said that they did not actually see Ahmaud physically go into the property. They just thought he looked suspicious.
Which means that they're not allowed to pursue him because you are not allowed under Georgia statute to conduct a citizen's arrest unless you actively have seen the crime occur.
And then you're not allowed to use weapons.
Force.
So, I mean, let's say that they did see the guy go into the house. The N-word part as he shot him and killed him, that really negated any thought of anyone saying, oh, this isn't racially motivated, because it very clearly was, if we're to believe that testimony. And so that's my issue with a lot of the conservatives who are very, very loud about that aspect, because a lot of them and myself are like, okay, let's wait till more of the facts that come out. So I never said it was racist. I never said that it was.
I actually came out on the show and said it was racist. Like the first day that we covered it, I was like, I guarantee you this was racially motivated. He probably called him boy, something of that nature, something derogatory, and that's more than likely what led to some of this. Not saying it's all of it. And in Ahmaud's defense, he didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve any of it. No. So, I came out and said, I believe this was racially motivated.
So
from the get.
So the thing we've said from the very moment that it started was that regardless of what they think they saw him do, they don't have a right to carry weapons and go hunt him down.
Exactly.
Right? That okay. You follow him in your truck, you report him to the cops. If you think it's safe, maybe you stop him and wait for the cops to show up, right? You ask him to sit on the curb and you say, hey, I've called the cops. The cops are going to show up. They're going to ask you some questions. And the cops take over and they handle the situation, right? Citizen's arrest is not vigilante justice, right? I don't have the right, because somebody walks onto my lawn, to pursue them with a gun. Once they leave my property, they're outside of my purview. And so the two facts we knew for always was that he was never on their property, so it was not self-defense, and that they have no right to go after him with a weapon, and that the moment that they pointed a weapon at him, listen, I don't know why he ran towards them instead of running away.
Fight or
but
flight.
I wasn't there.
Fight or flight. That's what I was thinking.
The thing is, we weren't there, right? We weren't in the situation. It wasn't us having to react to this situation. So we don't know how we would react. Kyle's had a gun pointed at him. He ran away. I've never had a gun pointed at me other than by a cop. So I knew how to handle that.
I've had a cop point a gun at me too. That was fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever told you that.
Why do you guys get guns put on you?
So I'll tell you my story, and then Kyle, if he wants to, can tell you his.
I can't. I'll tell you.
So what happened in my situation?
I'll tell both, I guess.
So what happened in my situation is my wife and I, when we only had 2 kids, we had gone to the park, and we used to go for walks every night and kind of just, have a little family time. We would let our daughter swing on the swing set, and me and my wife would walk around the park a little bit just to get some exercise, and it'll give my daughter some time to have fun. So I guess at some point in time, some lady that lived near the park or whatever had heard some screaming, so she assumed we were kidnapping our kid. And so in the small little town, Giddings, Texas, where I was, where you went out of the park, there was only enough room for one vehicle to get in and out of the park. Well, this park, the cops would come in, do a circle around the driveway, and drive out like every 45, 30 minutes. It was like part of their route, It was at the end of town, so they would come down that way, come into the park, do a circle, and go out. It was common. It was common to see cops there. So I was getting ready to leave. We buckle our kids into the car seats. We're leaving the park, and the cop is there with his blinker on like he's going to turn into the park. Well, I can't go out because he's blocking me from going out. So I decide, okay, I'll back up so that he can pull in. He doesn't have his lights on. He just has his blinker on like he's turning in like it's a normal day. So I back up, and as soon as I back up, he turns the spotlight on me and whips in, turns the reds and blues on. And I mean, he gets out of the car and he's got the gun at his hip. Now, mind you, at the time, I was a trainer for the U.S. Army. I trained pre-deployments. I trained people how to go overseas and deal with these situations. I trained search and seizure. I trained these tasks. So I immediately know how to de-escalate this situation. The first thing you do is you put your hands straight on the steering wheel, right? You glue your hands to the steering wheel. You roll the window down, you put the vehicle in the park, you turn it off. Okay? I tell my wife, you put your hands on the dashboard. She puts her hands flat against the dashboard. The cop comes up, he's got his gun pulled. The window's down. He looks at me, and he says something. And I said, you are being too aggressive. And he said, you can't say that to me. And I said, the shit I can't. I said, you are being too aggressive. We pose no threat to you. There's no reason for you to have your gun out of your holster. He goes, well, you were trying to run. I said, I wasn't trying to run anywhere. You never even turned your lights on. This is a single car lane. I was getting out of your way so you could pull in. I was going to turn to go that way. I couldn't turn because you were in the lane I was going to go into. I said, the car's in park. My hands are on the steering wheel. Put your gun away. He said, oh, you just think you could tell people what to do. And I said, you're doing this wrong. And he goes, how do you know what I'm doing? I said, I trained this for the military. And so he was getting more and more combative as we went along. I'm trying to diffuse the situation. I said, you need to get a superior here. You need to get somebody here other than yourself. You need to have somebody else on this scene. I said, so he asked me to step out of the car. I step out of the car. I don't want to upset him. We go to the back of the car, right? He asked me to put my hands up against the back windshield, back glass. I do it. He pats me down. Then I turn around, he's put his weapon away. We start to have a conversation. He goes, if you took your car to a mechanic and would you tell them they were doing it wrong? I said, if the car was broke, yeah, I would tell them they did it wrong. Like if it was something wrong, I would tell them it was wrong. I wouldn't just like, oh, my car's broke now. Thanks a lot. So he finally gets a superior there. The superior comes over to talk to me. I tell him the story, and the superior just looks at him and says, get in your fucking car and drive away. Right? Like this is probably the last night you'll ever work for us.
Oh, shit.
Right? Because there was absolutely no reason to have his gun drawn on me. All because, and then the funny part was, okay, so my daughter is 4, and he's like, do you have ID for her? And it's like, she's 4. Like, who has
was he a rookie? Was he super young or something?
He wasn't super young, but that doesn't mean he wasn't a rookie, right? Because I mean, like, cops can start at any age. So he could have been 25 to 30, but it could have been relatively new. But it's also a very small town where very little crime happens. So it might have been one of those guys who's just like, I got into being a cop so I could go bust some bad guys, and this is my chance.
He may have just come from a bigger PD like Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, something of that nature. And that's, that was protocol up there.
That is some crazy shit. I feel like we have regressed so far, like conservatives and Republicans especially have regressed so far into the whole protect cops no matter what, that we can't even see that we don't even hold them to a standard that is of our own, not even higher than us. Because I can't pull a gun on you and be like, are you going to ask me how to do my job? Like, I can't just pull a gun on you for no reason. But that's exactly what he did.
And that's a good point for that. That's a good point for the Arbery case. Because again, they were cops in their past, but they were not cops at that moment. They were not allowed to go point a gun at a guy and then say that they acted in self-defense because the guy rushed them. You pointed a gun at him. You escalated the situation. You're the one who made him defend himself.
Right. And like Kyle said, I thought it was fight or flight, because the stupidest argument I got in my replies when I was talking about it on Twitter was, "Oh, he grabbed the gun." I mean, they were chasing him. They were chasing him with a gun. Yeah, I don't know.
His only chance at surviving that situation was to close the distance, either get the gun pointed away from himself and or take the gun away in order to equal the situation.
Here's the craziest part, and I totally forgot about this because this actually came out before the preliminary hearings where the whole N-word thing came out. But the McMichael's sister, I guess it was a sister of, I think it was the brother dad was observing, I don't know. But the sister/daughter of the two McMichaels, she had posted a Snapchat of Ahmaud's dead body on social media. And then when she was confronted about it, she said that she was just a fan of true crime.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, even though her dad and her brother are the ones that killed the dude. So I mean, come on, that she didn't outwardly spray paint the N-word over it, but when I don't regularly post pictures of dead black people that my parents or my brother have killed on my Snapchat. So I mean, I think the whole family's pretty fucked. Yeah.
So okay, so Ross has to do some stuff. He'll be right back. So I've got two stories about being gun in my face. The first was when I was 17 or 18, but still in high school. My cousin and I had snuck out of the house to go into town to see our cousin, who was of legal drinking age. We imbibed with him while learning the finer intricacies of Metallica, because that was his thing, and we liked Metallica too. Whiskey in the Jar, by the way. Whatever, fuck you. So we're leaving his house and we're going back home, and we had driven my cousin's car, which was a Standard, and I had learned to drive a Standard, but on a truck and a tractor, not in a car, so the gear shifting was different. And I stalled the car out at the stop sign, and the second that we stalled out, the car was surrounded by 4 people who had a shotgun. They got us out of the car. They demanded our money. We're like, look, dude, we don't have any money on us, but we live just right over there. If you follow us, we'll, we got $500. We'll give you everything if you just follow us. to put my shotgun away, and he pulled me out of the house, strip searched me, patted me down. I was only in shorts. I wasn't even wearing a shirt. I just woke up. So he's doing all this, and then his partner walks around the corner and goes, "What the fuck are you doing?" He had a gun. He goes, "And?" "Well, he had a gun." And the other officer goes, "And? It's Texas. Everyone's got guns."
That's mad funny.
So I have to apologize.
Sorry about that.
Let's
my story.
Well, let me, in case I don't know what happened, so let me explain this, because I think we had I don't think anybody's heard the last 5 minutes of what you've been talking about. I think we lost audio.
Well,
because
your video froze, but us were still moving. So I don't know. I've been watching the stream. I wasn't listening, but I've been watching. So
yeah, there's definitely silence in there. Okay, so what happened was power went out at my house. I lost all internet, and of course, if I lose internet, that means I lose connection to the virtual machine. And that means that although your video is still going, I'm not able to the sound because it's coming through.
It's being ported through your personal computer to the virtual machine.
To the virtual machine. Is since I've lost connection from my computer to the virtual machine, it's not getting sound anymore.
Sounds like you need to get a universal power supply or a battery backup.
So we have the solar guys coming out in about 2 weeks to figure that out.
That's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah. So I apologize to everybody watching, listening. I didn't disconnect the cable this week, so at least it's not that this time. Because it was that last time. But yeah, utilizing the virtual machine, if you lose connection to the internet, you can't connect to the virtual machine. So I apologize.
At least they could still see us, because if it had been your personal machine and lost everything, then the whole stream would have died. So at least we got that. But to finish my story, the cop got sent around the corner to investigate the glass bottle in the truck, and the other cop came around and apologized extensively to me, which paid off in my favor. About 2 months later, I was going 45 and a 35, didn't think it was a 35, and the same cop pulled me over, remembered me, and said, "Dude, you're good. I put you through too much shit that night. You have a good night."
That's cool as fuck. You know what I thought was gonna happen? I thought it was like a scam. Like the kids were like, you threw a bottle at our truck, and as soon as you put the gun down, they were the ones holding a gun at you. That's what I thought this story was gonna. I thought it was like a home invasion thing.
No, it was a cop. It was a black cop that did that, and the white cop is the one who came around the corner and corrected him. And then the white cops who pulled me over again 2 months later. So he did let me know that the black cop had just come from Houston PD, and I was like, "Oh, dude, I understand now." It's like Houston is, the chopped and screwed situation down there. Like that's a lifestyle. That's not just music. That's they live that down there, and it makes for some interesting situations. So I definitely don't feel. I definitely understood where he was coming from after that was explained, because like I said, Houston is it's a big city with a lot of people, so it makes sense. So, well, cooler heads prevailed, and luckily I got out of both those situations without any lead in my body. I did have lead in my body, but from a different situation. We do guided hunts, and one of my clients got me from about 50 yards away with birdshot. So
shit,
that was fun.
Did it hurt?
I stung a little. What was the funny thing was, though, is that like 4 years later, I was looking at my shin and I was like, "What is that little black mark?" Because I never had any blood, so I didn't think I actually got hit. I thought I just bounced off. 4 years later, I'm looking at my shin, I see a little black mark, and I kind of mess with it a little bit, and a BB pops out and rolls off into the floor. So I was like, "Oh."
So was there a hole in your leg?
It didn't really put a hole in my leg. It just left a piece of lead in my leg. Just a little bitty BB.
Okay, so back to how we started this. Olivia, is there anything else tonight that you would like to talk about before we hijack your entire interview?
I know, y'all motherfuckers talk a lot.
That's why we do this.
No, I think I got it. Basically everything I wanted to say was just touching back on the Ahmaud Arbery case specifically, because I know a lot of conservatives were very, very vocal about how this isn't racist, how he shouldn't have attacked the guy, whatever. And then as soon as the hearing started and it came out that they were kind of racist and they chased him for several minutes, they were like dead silent. So that's kind of the main point I wanted to make, just pointing at the hypocrisy there.
So I will say, I will say that at least on most of the conservatives I talk with, we were trying to reserve judgment. We were trying to say, okay, look, we don't have all the facts. We have a very short video that's out of context. We don't know what happened, right? There's more details to come out here. But we did, at least on this show, I can't speak to anybody else, but at least on this show, we said the two things that I think are the most important in this case is that A, he wasn't on their property. It's not self-defense in there and for them at all. Like if he had been on their property and had been attacking them, then that's fine. But he wasn't attacking them. He wasn't on their property. They have no right for that. Number two, yes, you have the right to make a citizen's arrest, but you do not have the right to do so armed.
Mm-hmm.
So either which way, they're in the wrong, and Ahmaud should not have died. The worst case scenario is Ahmaud should have gone to jail if he had done something wrong.
Right. And did you see, I was wondering if you saw, they released a lot of security footage from the same house in the months prior to Ahmaud entering it. There were there was a white couple and a group of white kids, like younger kids. But in general, there was a lot of people, black and white, that were going in and out of the construction site. And this was the only case where someone was killed for doing that, allegedly.
Well, and as you said, the Michaels did not have firsthand witness evidence that he had been in the house. They didn't know, right? They thought he looked suspicious. Number two is I've gone in houses that are in construction quite often, right?
Yeah,
Kyle talked about this on the show. In his neighborhood, they openly encourage you to do that.
Wow. Yep. Okay.
Because they want you to go in and see what you want.
Yeah, so my neighborhood is a new neighborhood. Like we've been here 2 years. I think the neighborhood itself has been here 4, potentially somewhere in that range, and they're still building it out. So any house that has the word available or even sold on it, they say you're more than welcome to go ahead and walk/tour the building to see what kind of layout you like. So you don't have to waste time going to a salesperson to find out what kind of layout you want for your house. You can go into any one and take a look, as long as it says available or sold and doesn't have a locked door. If it has a locked door, then you're not allowed to go in because that's someone's property. But while it's still underneath the home builder's purview, they encourage you to go tour their facilities.
That's very interesting. I think I've never heard of that before, but I feel like it is pretty common in like growing like suburban neighborhoods where you can just kind of walk into a construction site, like not necessarily a fully finished house, but I've walked into a construction site before just to like see what's going on. So yeah, there was really no redeeming qualities for the McMichaels when you actually look at the case and look at the hearing. So that was my closing remark, basically, just about that.
All right.
Yeah, and the funny thing to me, and to add on, is that this situation probably would have died and gone away if it had not been for the McMichaels' defense attorney, like, accidentally publishing the videos. And, like, he encouraged them to let him do it, knowing full well that it was going to damn them, because he knew that what they had done was wrong and needed to be punished for it. Mm-hmm. So that, to me, was kind of, like, he's definitely going to be fired and probably reprimanded as a lawyer, but he did what in his mind was right, and more, and in history he'll be remembered as doing the right thing.
I respect it for sure.
So we're gonna make a wrap to this because it is getting a little late in the evening, and you're over on the East Coast, so it's an hour later for you, and you got school tomorrow, young lady. So in October I do too. So
I was gonna say, I don't think school's in session right now. If it is, it's probably online.
It's still funny. You ruin every joke. I swear to God.
Well, you don't make sense.
It's a Thursday night. It's school tomorrow. Come on, man. Just for once.
Give it up, Ross. Give it up.
Just for once. Let me make a dad joke without you having to say something stupid about it. Okay. But irregardless, It is getting a little late in the evening. We do want to thank you so much for coming on with us and spending the time you spent with us. You've been very gracious with your time. We've had almost 2 hours with you. Thank you so much for opening up and telling us your story, because it is a very, very interesting story. You have a lot of very great things to say, and I want to make sure that anybody who happens to watch this, all 4 people, get to know where you. Hey, yeah. We want them to know who you are, where you are. So please tell them where they can find you, Twitter, whatever social media platforms you like, and then where they can come read your work.
Cool. So I have a YouTube channel. It's just my name, Olivia Rondeau. It's Rondeau. And then my Twitter handle is Rondeau Olivia, because I thought I was really slick with that, because I was like, oh my God, the ending of my last name sounds like the ending of my first name. Blah, 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 blah. Really confusing. It's Rondeau Livia. That's basically the main social media platforms I use for politics. And then you can find my work at the Daily Caller, Campus Reform, Lone Conservative, Porter Medium. All the links are actually in my Twitter bio. So if you go there, you can find it.
All the links are also in the description to this YouTube video.
Oh yes.
So if you are unable to spell her last name, or you're unable to figure out why she did that on Twitter, like Kyle used to have, his Twitter was all jacked up. Kyle's Twitter handle used to be like, it looked like
Outlaw FDT 08.
Yeah, it made no sense whatsoever.
I was in Squadron 8, which was the Outlaws. I was a member of Fish Drill Team, and I'm class of 08. So it made sense to me.
It's great. I'm happy for you. So if you need to know any of the information about where you can find Miss Olivia, we want to thank you so much. We want all of our guests to thank her so much. Go read her work at the Daily Caller, the Lone Conservative, wherever it's posted. Make sure you follow her on Twitter. We're not Twitter Nazis around here. We don't care how many people have. We want you to get followers too. Follow us by all means. And if you don't know, our links are in the description as well. So go down there, look for us. You can follow us on Twitter. You can engage with us substantially on Twitter. We love to get in conversations on Twitter. We like to go back and forth with people on Twitter. If you come at with me on economics, bro, it's quite possible I'll spend 6 hours researching and putting you down with econometric data.
All right, I won't get into any more fights about reparations or anything with you.
I know. So, he likes it. That's his way of having.
It just gives
fun.
me something.
I know. He's like, mwahaha, yes.
I don't have to spend time with the kids.
No, so I work in oil and gas. Just a quick story. I was on a location the other day doing what's called a pump down. We were pumping down plugs at the bottom of the well. It was taking forever because we had to go super slow because they wanted us to go super slow just for safety. And so I was literally just on the Fed, like fred.fed.st Louis, and I was just pulling up economic data, and I was like, I'm going to see which state is the best economically in the nation, and I'm going to use all of these different factors. Go to my Twitter, you can see this, you can see the screenshot of the Excel file that I did, and then I ranked all the states 1 through 50, and then I comparatively took an average of all the states, and then I figured out which state was the best. And guess what? California is not better than Texas economically by any stretch of the imagination. Yes, they have a higher median income, but their standard of living is 1.5 times as much as ours.
I was about to say, because there's a super high median income in DC and Montgomery County and PG, but it's so fucking expensive to live here. So
exactly that, and they have 5 times the level of homeless per capita we do.
Wow, I did not know that.
So yeah,
Ross, when are you going to publish that finding on the website?
So that will probably be coming out in the week or next. I'm still fine tuning that data. So my objective here is I didn't use any perception studies. I only used relevant data from government sources, and I did not apply any weighting to my rankings. So I may go back and apply some weighting to the rankings because I think it's more important. It's more important how much homeless people you have than how many millionaires you have. Right, so I think that should weigh more. Like that you have 5 times as much of the national average of homeless people per capita, then okay, you have slightly more than the number of millionaires per capita as everybody else. But I didn't want it to be biased. I didn't want to put my personal opinion into it. I just wanted it to be objective. I wanted to be able to say, this is it. This is where you rank. This is how it works. Massachusetts came out number 1. It just. I'm as shocked as you are.
Massachusetts came out number 1.
So that's, I have to add tax rates. I have to add some things like that. There's some things I need to add. It's an ongoing project. It's probably gonna take me about 2 weeks, but I got the initial one done in a night. I put it out there. Go to my Twitter. You can see it. I put pictures of it. Texas comes in 19th. Oregon, Washington, California, all will come in well below us.
Where's Maryland? Do you remember where it was?
Yeah, hold on. Now you're gonna
probably be like number 3. While he's doing that, Olivia, I want to open up an invitation to you, let you know that anytime you ever want to come on the show and talk, you're more than welcome to. Monday nights is when we do more of a panel site situation. Thursday nights is when we do more of our interviews. So as tonight we interviewed you, but like on Monday night you would just come in and talk the shit with us. So you wouldn't be the focus of the video. You would just be a part of the conversation. So we tried our best to rein Ross in and focus on you and your story. It was hard. We probably didn't do a good job.
No, you're good.
I
can only talk about myself for so long and so many times, so it's all good.
I can go for days.
I can tell.
Come on, computer. This is a Core i7 in this thing, and yet it's going slow. Where did I put it? I don't know where I put it. Did I even put it on this computer? Am I even on the right computer?
Probably not.
Probably not. There. Wait, I found it.
Instead of putting it under economics by state, I put it under state economics.
Okay, and then because you mentioned it, I'm gonna tease you a little bit. When are you and Damani gonna become a thing?
Okay, first of all, you know what? I have to text him. I'm gonna ask him myself. No, but
hey, put him on Front Street.
That's my bro.
just DM on Twitter and then post it publicly.
I have to put the pressure on him.
Yeah.
He's like 10 years older than me. I just realized that. But
so okay.
No, I don't think so. Because Trey
like 29, right?
Trey is 32 or 31, depending on if he's at his birthday.
The same age.
No, Trey and you are the same age.
No,
Trey's class of 10.
Right. Yeah, he was 12. Yeah.
Damani's like class of 15, I think.
Okay.
But Damani's the way more outspoken person.
Taking into account all of these variables: median income, GDP per capita, cost of living, standard of living, which is median income divided by cost of living. In case anybody doesn't know, I don't do perception studies. Perception studies are bullshit. If you like something that sucks, it doesn't make it good. Okay. I'm sorry. The people in UK say they have a good healthcare system. So they always say, oh, the UK has a good healthcare. No, the UK healthcare system sucks. The people just like it because it's free. Okay. Yeah, I took unemployment rates, and now unemployment rates, mind you, I took the average of the 2019 unemployment rates by state. It's not fair to hold them to April 2020 unemployment rates. Okay. That's not fair. All employment rates suck right now. That depends on whether your governor is letting you go back to work or not. I took billionaires per 10 million, so billionaires per capita, percentage of millionaire, percentage of population homeless, and then what I did is I ranked every state in all these categories 1 through 52 because I put the District of Columbia and in the United States as a whole in there, and then I averaged
Puerto Rico.
I did not put Puerto Rico. No, because it's hard to find economic data on Puerto Rico. I'm sorry, it's very hard to find accurate, reliable economic data on Puerto Rico. What I then did is I took the average of all of the rankings for each category, and then so like Maryland had Massachusetts had an overall rank of 10.125. Okay, on average, so that puts them first. Maryland comes in 15th with an average rank of 20.375. Texas comes in 19th with an average rank of 23.75. Now, I do want to add a couple things to this, so the numbers may change, so don't hold me to these right now, but it's an objective. There's no subjectivity to this. I have not inputted my bias into this whatsoever. I simply filtered it in Twitter, ranked them 1 through 52, and then took an average.
Okay. I believe it.
I would not say Maryland is better than Texas economically.
I don't like Maryland. I don't like our governor is Republican, Larry Hogan. I have my issues with him. So I'm not a huge fan of.
He's a big business Republican.
Huh?
He's a big business Republican.
Yeah, for sure. He's not doing enough he's actually kind of helping the immigration problem right now. Because so I'm from Gaithersburg. He basically made this area a type of sanctuary zone. So we have a pretty big MS-13 problem here. So thanks, Larry.
Yeah. So for everybody that listened tonight, we thank you so much for paying attention to us. Go follow Olivia on Twitter. Go follow her on any of the social media platforms she has. YouTube channel is linked below. We are always willing to reciprocate on the YouTube experiences. If you ever would like to host us for any reason, or host one of us that is more economic data than the other,
or one that's more fun to talk to.
It would also be me. Anyway, Anyway, we want to thank you so much, Olivia, for coming on. Thank you, Kyle, as always, for being here and being my co-host, and for not having the sticker readily available so that we could just show it off really nice and easy. But since you have it right beside you now, woo, too much shiny. Okay, there you go. SchuBros Unfiltered stickers. Get them for all of your stickering needs.
And they're on the website now because I was doing that while we talked.
And, back windows of your truck, cracks in your toilet seat. There's all kinds of uses. Okay, $5. We'll send you one. And Kyle will bitch about how much the postage costs.
I will not. I did not bitch at you. I just told you it took 3 stamps. Telling someone it took 3 stamps equals you bitched at them.
It does, because you were bitching. All right, everybody else, we thank you so much for watching. God bless you. Have a great night. Thank you so much, Olivia.
Gigaman, God bless.
I just keep calling on the help of my peers, but their success makes me distressed. Things will be better when I disappear, bouncing from city to state. Nothing feels great, I'm a committed disgrace. If I could get up, hold my chin up, confidence is just a bluff for the weak. Might take a peek in my self-pity to realize it's selfishness for the meek. Just take these pills, it makes it better, but withdrawals will make you seize up and tweak. You gotta buy it every month, we change the brand, it's more expensive this week. I'll hold my chin up, keep this grin up like my mother, she can worry like me. But if I have you, life is worth it, love is more than a contagious disease. I think of you, I think of me, a family, is this another pipe dream? But if these dreams mean anything, I'm gonna think whatever I want to think. I just can't convince myself to look. Why can't I be strong in the place where you read your books? I just can't rely on happenstance. Didn't say goodbye before you died, I should've took that chance. But you'll never leave me, no, my heart is bleeding, and I know this feeling's not fleeting. Your hugs were the best thing, just wrapped up in your strength. I'd give up